Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and legionnaires of all ages, as I move the hair out of my face, welcome to, in our opinion, episode 5. I'm Nick the Geek, and this week I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by my old co-host, compatriot, and co-conspirator. I'm joined by the captain. Captain, how the hell are you?
I am doing very well. You caught me at the last second whilst on holiday, as they say over in the UK. I was like, fuck yeah, I can give Nick an hour. I'll give Nick 2 if he needs it.
The man has bailed me out of having to have, well, he's bailed you people out of having to listen to me with on my own for 20 minutes to an hour. So let's get straight into it, shall we? In fact, no, let's have a bit of a chat. What were we talking about before we went on air? Oh, yes.
Right. Discussing the transition between Peacock and the network to Netflix in January as to how all of that will be filtering and sifting itself out.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit worried because they've announced, as I said, on January 1st that the network goes down. It's a bit of an end of an era for us. Because the network's always been a fantastic source of back catalogue, everything we need to watch, everything we want to review, and everything we want to cover for future shows. And unfortunately, the network is shutting down, if people didn't know, in England on the 1st of January. Obviously, this is because of the Netflix deal and Raw, SmackDown, and NXT moving on to Netflix in the UK. Unfortunately, we do not know, as of this point, what other content from the back catalogue that is on the network is going to be available on Netflix. Whether it will all be available as per it is on the network, or whether it's going to be a sporadic release of things over time. Now, this has put a bit of a monkey wrench in the works.
Hold this up specifically. If you care to look in the corner of my screen, you'll see your doppelganger.
Wow, just call me Nicky Schiavone.
Office right now.
just call me Nicky Schiavone. Yes, but the captain and I had a show planned called Our Time in Wrestling. This was going to be a show where we went back and rewatched matches from the careers of men who we'd grown up watching and idolizing and who really affected our lives as wrestling fans.
A biographical enterprise, shall we say.
If you will. Unfortunately, if the content that I currently have access to via the WWE network is not available on Netflix, we're going to have to do some drastic changes to the show. It will still come out. We will come up with something. But it all depends on what happens on January the 6th, when Netflix goes live with WWE content and I find out what's available. But anyway, enough of that, on with the show. It is Survivor Series week. Survivor Series is tomorrow. So what I want to do today is kind of our usual opinion piece on what we think of everything that's happening in wrestling, but I want to really focus on Survivor Series, and specifically I want to have Captain on because I want to talk about War Games.
One of actually probably my favorite match in all of pro wrestling.
Yes.
And by the way, I just have to congratulate you. I know I told you this, fall season I would be busy. So I wouldn't have been available anyway, but the fact that you and Jimmy the Drip King are doing the Nitro redo thing, yes. I cannot tell you how much I love that. I'm going to be watching that because literally I started watching Nitro 2 to 3 weeks into its origin, literally short story long. I had my 4th grade teacher was a huge wrestling fan. So my first Nitro was like the 3rd or 4th Nitro. So I'm going to be watching that just like a little kid again. Oh my God. I remember this. I was like 7, 8 years old.
Well, just cheap plug tomorrow night at 5 p.m. UK time. I'm not sure what time that is. What time's that Central Cap? About 11 o'clock.
Subtract 6 hours, so 5 p.m. UK. That's going to put 11 a.m. Central.
11 a.m. Central. We will be doing, myself and the Drip King, Jimmy Bay, will be doing our first episode of what should have been the Friday Nitro review. But for the first week, it's going to be the Saturday Nitro review because real life got in the way. But it has allowed me to do tonight's show recap. So, silver linings, serendipity and all of that. But that is
there's going to be a couple of shows you're going to be covering, one of which is the first match I ever taped via VHS. It was the Monday Nitro before the actual event I'm watching on my office television. The Monday Nitro prior to World War III, Sting versus Hogan, was the first match I ever taped. I still have it in my closet here. Maddie Laws can back me up. I still have it on VHS as it happened. So yes, I am looking forward to this show.
Well, I just finished rewatching the first Nitro for the first time in about 20 years.
Mall of America in Minnesota.
And it was absolutely brilliant. The commentary is, God, it's the drizzling shits. But it's Mongo, Eric Bischoff, and Bobby Heenan. And poor Bobby Heenan cannot do a damn thing to get any good responses out of Bischoff and Mongo as much as he tries. To the point that my brother actually turned around and blasphemed and said, God, Bobby Heenan's a terrible commentator, and nearly killed him.
I will give your brother.
As I said, Bobby needs a good commentator. He needs a good partner. Without a good partner, he produces nothing. If he has a good partner, he produces gold.
I know we're going to get into this maybe at some point because we're going to be reviewing some old things. Dusty Rhodes was a far better foil for Bobby Heenan than Tony Schiavone. Dusty Rhodes was a lot like Gorilla Monsoon in the playoff they kind of had from each other.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's no secret Bobby and Tony did not get along. That's nothing new to wrestling fans.
Well, Bobby hated
Dusty and Bobby would have been a better combination than the three at the panel.
Oh, I agree.
But Tony had his spot.
I completely agree. But we're going off topic. We can do this plenty of tangents as we go, but we need to start with Survivor Series. Now, I'm going to go through the matches in the order I figure they're going to happen, Cap, all right? And we'll go through one at a time.
I got my scroller here so I can follow as you go.
I think we are going to be starting with the Women's War Games match of Bianca Belair, spoilers, Bayley, Io Sky. Who else was it? Oh, all the baby faces standing in a row. Just not Jade Cargill. She's being replaced by Bayley. Spoilers for those who I didn't know SmackDown tape.
I'm looking at CBS Sports. It says Rhea, Bianca, Naomi, Io, and Bayley versus Liv, Raquel, Nia, Tiffany, and Stratton, and Candice LeRae.
There you go. Thank you. I'm very tired, so I didn't quite remember those names. Yes, this is your usual. The women have to have a War Games match as well, even though there's no real story or reason for it to be happening. For God's sake, Liv and Nia should be at each other's throats as champions due to the fact that Liv beat Nia for the big, ugly Saudi Arabian belt the other week.
Strange bedfellows, though, as we know.
But when we get to the main event, we will understand that a good, solid storyline is necessary to go into a War Games match.
I agree. It has to be within the storyline where it should be, strangers making good bedfellows. This is more of we've got to have this match, so we're having this match, and we're putting these people in it.
Hello, Russ.
Hello.
How are you, mate? Thanks for joining. What have you got to say here? Never been to the Mall of America. Wasn't on the Nitro debut though. Yes, this is true. That would have been quite cool. Right, but anyway, yes. So the first Women's War Games, it will be the Women's War Games match, I presume, because they usually bookend the show with these things. First off, Cap, I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to win? And I'm also going to ask you, who do you think takes the pin?
Well, now, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as into the current product as I was maybe a year ago. Are they bringing back submission and surrender, or is it submission or pinfall? Because I heard or saw something that they were bringing back submission or surrender.
I'm not sure is the honest answer to this. Solo Sikoa did cut a promo last Friday all about wanting Roman to accept his surrender. So possibly they're going back to submission and surrender, which I would prefer, but I'm going under the assumption that it's going to be pinfall.
I think to set up what we know is going to happen is going to be WrestleMania. It's going to be Rhea and Liv to sort of cap off their whole endeavor they've been under. I think it's going to be Rhea's team getting the win. And if I wanted to go out on a limb, not a thick limb, but a thin limb, I would say, again, this is the long-term storytelling that they're doing these days. I would say I think you're going to see Rhea getting a surrender from Liv in that match to set up, hey, you've done this to me, done that to me, done that to me. WrestleMania, it's eventually going to be Rhea and Liv again, because that's the money match amongst these group of ladies.
Great minds think alike. This is exact. I honestly think this whole War Games match is to get Rhea Ripley another logical shot at Liv Morgan for the World Championship, that she can sorely say, I've earned this, I deserve this, and I'm sure.
Think back to, and again, the 1992 War Games, where Zbyszko hit Bobby Eaton in the shoulder with the ring post, and then they grabbed an armbar. So I could see Rhea something similar to where she just makes Liv absolutely surrender, and that would, folly adieu.
Well, she's got that prison trap submission, which would work perfectly fine if she smashes Liv's knees in beforehand or something. So we're both in agreement there.
Liv Zbyszko hit Bobby Eaton in the shoulder with it, and then I can't remember who put the arm bar on him, but something in that category.
Yeah, along those lines. But we're both pretty much in agreement that the babyface is going to win, and this is pretty much a match that is a tool to get Rhea Ripley another title shot.
I'm going to go to the opposite when we get to the other one, but that's for a later moment.
Yeah. All right, now there are only 5 matches announced for this card, thank God. Something Tony Khan needs to desperately learn from. Next up, I am going under the assumption we are going to have LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. Sorry, nearly got my belts mixed up there.
I'm looking very forward to this.
I'm really looking forward to this, but at the same time, I'm slightly concerned.
As am I, but I want to see if your concerns align with mine.
Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. He has been for years. The man is phenomenal at telling in-ring stories, making it believable and making it convincing. He has timing for days, and he is just an incredible in-ring storyteller. My concern is that every time they build Nakamura up for any limited amount of time, they then cut the legs off him as soon as the match comes around. Now, first off, I'd like to prefix this by saying I do not think this is a one and done. I think there is legs to this feud. I think this is going to run on for a couple of months. I'd probably finish up at the Royal Rumble. Therefore, I am going with my heart over my head with this, because all my logical wrestling brain tells me LA Knight is going to win, and they are going to cut the legs off Shinsuke Nakamura once again and have him flounder in the mid-card division where he does not belong. But I think Nakamura may win, because not everybody needs a 1,236-day title reign. And if he wins the belt here, has a run up to the Royal Rumble, and then Knight wins it back, I think that's perfectly credible. Knight becomes a 2-time champion, which adds to his legacy. Nakamura gets a run with the US title. He looks like a credible threat. Knight can go in the chase again. I think it's a good move. What do you reckon?
I am in agreement with your heart as far as Anakin Skywalker's bastard Japanese son from episode 3 of Star Wars.
It really is.
I love the fact they're bringing Shinsuke back, because I love Shinsuke, and I started to love him even more during NXT Takeover the Table that we did with Maddie. Love me some Shinsuke, and I do love LA Knight. I've called him the modern day Diamond Dallas Page. The fact that he's gotten over as much as he has, given, well, you can see DDP there. He's gotten over at an advanced age. So again, to give something legs, you have to have something happen that, Nakamura has to win here for this thing to have legs, because if Knight wins, Shinsuke's been gone for a while. You bring him back to look like this Japanese Jedi Knight. So
it really does.
Why not give Nakamura the belt and have Knight chase him? Which I think Knight, and this is the case with so many of our favorites. Sting, who will be our guy that we're going to be talking about, on in our time in wrestling.
Yeah.
Some guys are far better and far more entertaining when they're chasing the belt than when they have it. Knight is one of those guys that now they've put the belt on him. I think the money is in Knight chasing rather than Knight retaining.
I agree.
And there is a lot that could be done here, but they've got to put it on Nakamura. So I hope they do that.
No, so do I.
Because you could get a trilogy out. You could get they have this match here, then they have the rematch at the Rumble.
Saturday night's main event.
Pardon?
Saturday night's main event.
You could have the payoff at Rumble. You could have it at Mania, or Chamber, depending on how strong the legs are. But I think if you're bringing Nakamura back and you're really wanting to make him something, you have to have him win, because what's the point?
Well, what's the point of the heel turn if you lose? The heel loses all the time. It doesn't make any sense. Right, but so we're both in agreement with that. Nakamura to win.
All right.
Right. Next match, I reckon. What was it?
Intercontinental triple threat.
No, the other one.
Gunther and Damian.
Yes, I think the world title is going to go bang on in the middle of the show. Right, I'm going to let you go first on this one, Cap. Have you been paying attention? Have you paid attention to the run? Do you like the new swagger that they've reintroduced into Damian Priest's character? And how do you think this one's going to play out?
I really like the swagger because I've always loved Damian Priest. I love the swagger they're putting into this one. At the same time, I'm never a fan of defending a world title, anything except second to last or last. Beyond that, if you're defending it in anything except the semi-main event or main event, then that belt doesn't mean enough. Having said that, makes me think and lean towards Gunther is going to win. We know what Gunther did with the IC title. He was the god of the Intercontinental title. I honestly cannot think of anyone who has been the god of a belt since Gunther with the Intercontinental title. I think of, Razor Ramon held it 4 times, but he held it 4 times within the span of 3 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, Randy Orton had the longest reign as IC champion until Gunther's a longest reign in 7 years, I think, when Orton had it.
Got the most.
Yeah, Jericho's got the most. Gunther had the longest reign with it. Ramon won it the most times in a small period. And Damian here, as much as I love you, Damian can afford the loss. This is a Gunther winning match, because you have to think if Paul Levesque has 2 neurons and brain cells rubbing in between his ears, he is trying to position Gunther eventually as the guy to go after Cody, because you can have Roman go off in so many directions. Him and Punk, him and Rock, him and you can do so. Yeah, Jacob. Yeah, there's so much to do with Roman. Roman had his reign. He doesn't need Roman had his reign. No pun intended. Roman can do so much. He doesn't need the belt. He doesn't need it again for a good while. It's like whenever Flair had his last run in '94, before he lost it to Hogan, he didn't win the belt again until
98.
90.
No, 99.
No, actually, no, 95 Starrcade against Savage. So Flair went essentially 2 years without having the belt, and then he went another 3 years without having the belt.
Yeah.
Roman is kind of in that Ric Flair period where he doesn't need the belt needs him. Gunther is the most credible challenger to Cody. And I've always said, when Cody does his heel turn, it's going to be monumental. But Gunther would be the most credible heel to go against Cody at some point. They may wait a year, they may wait 6 months. We don't really know.
I think Kevin Owens might spoil your plans there, Cam.
And I know Jimmy Timberlake is going to crush my balls for this. I don't dislike Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens is not a guy to hold a belt for very long, especially this belt.
He doesn't have to hold it for long. You see, my idea, it's not my idea, it's many people's idea, is that Kevin Owens is going to beat Cody Rhodes at Saturday night's main event and hold it till the Rumble.
Which, I mean, again, would not shock me. Again, going back to Savage and Flair, which Kevin Owens is very much like a Randy Savage. Cody Rhodes a lot like a Ric Flair. Flair took the belt off Savage, Starrcade 95. 3 weeks later, Clash of the Champions in January. Or actually, no, the Nitro before that, Savage took it off Flair. So you could, and Paul has this knowledge. Like this is the great thing about Triple H that a lot of people, pardon me, like to shit on, but that I actually kind of like is he's a knowledgeable guy. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't use drugs. He has this stuff in his brain like an encyclopedia. He knows these movements and these changes to where you can take the belt off a guy for a few weeks for the sake of a big event and then put it right back on the other guy. And you've lost nothing.
Not a thing.
So you may be right. And if it does happen, I wouldn't be shocked.
Well,
Cody is going to be the guy going into Mania. They could take it off him, put it on Owens for a while, and then you could do that. Hey, it works.
Well,
fine.
The thing is, Cody's title reign has been, quite frankly, very unjustly considered a bit of a failure. Which I think is poppycock. The problem that Cody Rhodes is facing is what I think is wonderful about him is Cody Rhodes is a genuine babyface in 2024 in American wrestling.
Yes.
Do you know how long it's been since we've had a genuine babyface that wasn't half booed and half cheered by the audience in American wrestling?
As
Before
far as
John Cena this time.
I would say, in the States, probably Cena, but also again, in the States, a lot of people, including myself, and I'm not knocking John Cena, the guy. I'm knocking John Cena, the character. A lot of people hated that character. I love John. He did great promos, great work in the ring.
People and stuff.
But there has not, I would say Austin was the last time you had a babyface who was that over, everyone liked, could work, could do the mic. Cena, it was, even when he was in the midst of his, everyone was just like, no, Vince, this we're not buying this malarkey here. Like this is, Cody is the closest thing. I never thought I would say this, Nick. Cody Rhodes is the closest thing we've had to what I would call a promotion and fan unanimous world champion since Austin.
Yep.
I will qualify that with this, that I said, and I told people this as soon as Cody won it, I was like, he's going to have a great babyface run. But that babyface run is going to go stale sooner rather than later. And then he's going to have to switch heel. And when he does, it is going to be monumental. And if it's done right, it could be Hogan heel turn as opposed to Austin heel turn, which versus Hogan heel, like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
He could be, and I think Undertaker, Mark Calloway said this on his like one of the first episodes of his podcast, said that if Cody went heel and it was done right, it could be the biggest heel turn ever. I'm inclined to think if they do it right, they could make Cody the biggest heel since Hollywood Hogan. I really think they could. No one would see Austin shake hands with McMahon. Everyone would love to see Cody with Mrs. Cody. I forget. Brandy. Cody, Brandy. She is human heat. Love her, but she's human heat. It could be so good, and I want to see it. I can't help myself. I love heels.
The Codelander, as I've dubbed him, will one day appear. I think it's guaranteed.
You put fear up in my nose.
Nice. Job done. Job done.
Oh, yes. Codelander.
Yeah. Codelander will happen one day, and it will be absolutely glorious. But onto this match. So, what they've done with Gunther since he lost to Cody in Saudi Arabia, I think is brilliant, where his self-confidence has been shot. And because Gunther has only ever been presented on the indie circuit in the UK and in Europe and in WWE as this unstoppable final boss monster, I like the fact that they've added a bit of humanism to him, that he's fallible, because it adds belief that someone like Damian Priest could come along and win, especially when Damian Priest is repeatedly getting the upper hand on him week in and week out. Anyone that's watched wrestling for more than a week, though, understands that this means that Damian Priest is not winning at the pay-per-view. When you constantly keep getting the upper hand on television leading up to the show, it's usually the case is you're not the one who's going to win the big match. It's a shame, but it's true, because I love Damian Priest. I and my brother both think that he could take the Undertaker's position in the company. And I don't mean be the new Undertaker. I mean his spot on the roster as the person who you put in there with guys to see, right, if you can't have a good match with Priest, then you're not going to get much further past this point. I think Priest
I can see that
to be that guy. But I honestly think Gunther's going to win this match, and maybe by some kind of shenanigans. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a clean win, but I think Gunther's going to retain.
I think Gunther's going to retain, not to necessarily project forward. We know WrestleMania is going to be in April. It's November, so that's 7 months, 6-7 months. You know, WWE is always thinking ahead. That was one of the few things Vince did, that he was thinking about WrestleMania by the time he got to SummerSlam Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Do you think they go Gunther Cody this year, or is it going to be like Gunther Roman Rock, some kind of amalgamation of that, and then Cody continues his run?
I've got a great plan for this year. No, I have a great plan for this year's WrestleMania.
Okay, go ahead.
John Cena wins the Royal Rumble and goes after Cody Rhodes.
Oh, Christ.
Because it's a passing of the torch match. And that main event tonight.
He's already been advertised for Chamber, Cena.
Hang on. That main event night 1. And night 2 is main evented by Roman and Rock. Because they've got to get that Roman Rock match out of the Rock as quick as they can, because the Rock's got less years left in him than anyone else. It's both the old versus the new. It's a true passing of the torch pair of main events. It's perfect.
I don't disagree with your philosophy there. I would swap it. I would put Roman Rock night 1, Cody Cena night 2, because your belt must be your belt. That has to be the
but dude,
thing.
The Rock's on the board of directors. You know he's going to take the main event of night 2.
I hope you're wrong, though you rarely are. If that
This is true.
I hope you're wrong, Nick, but you rarely are. I could see that happening and be like, oh, for the love of
It's
Christ.
a punishment being as right as I am half the time. It's only half the time, so.
So next up, the IC triple threat. I believe that would be number 4.
Yep.
On the card.
Now, one, it's wonderful to see the IC title being defended on PLE again, because it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has.
It's been defended a lot. Not since WrestleMania, it hasn't been defended on the PLE. So it's nice to see it back on one of the main shows. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Bron Breakker is not losing that title. No. As much as I beg and plead that they put the belt on Ludwig Kaiser at this point, the son of Atsuhita is not going to win the title this night. I don't think he's going to get pinned. I think Sheamus is there to get pinned. I think Sheamus is there to get pinned. Because there's a much longer story to be told with Sheamus and the IC title that needs to be given a bit of breadth, and a triple threat that was thrown together by Adam Pearce having a hissy fit on Monday Night Raw at 3 of his wrestlers fighting is not the place to do it. Braun has already done the quick title switch routine with Jey Uso, so I don't think he's going to do it here. I think Bron Breakker is going to smash and stack its Roman Reigns style of Sheamus, and Bron's going to leave. It's going to be a banging triple threat, and Bron's going to leave with the belt.
You recall back to the WrestleMania triple threat of Gunther, Sheamus, and McIntyre for the IC title. I think this is essentially what we're gonna get in this, with Breakker playing the Gunther role, Sheamus playing the McIntyre role, Kaiser playing the Gunther role, though not the champion who's going to go over. Breakker has to go over here. Sheamus, I've never been a huge fan of Sheamus. He's sort of what you may call an elder statesman of the company.
At this point.
Can have a great match with guys. It's almost, dare I say, and correct, we're both a couple of old bastards. Dare I say, Sheamus is starting to become the Fit Finlay of WWE.
That's a good analogy.
He's kind of becoming the old Irish guy that can beat the living piss out of somebody. Doesn't need the win, doesn't need the belt, but you put him in a match, you know he is going to be ready to chop some flesh. Kaiser, I'm with you on, because I love Kaiser.
He's so good. The guys
to see
he does,
yeah,
everything Kaiser does has purpose and it has reason. He never does a move for the sake of doing a move. He's very old school in that respect. It's old school European.
Well, very much Gunther. Like you never saw Gunther doing, and they were in Imperium. Yeah, I want to see more out of Ludwig. I think in this particular, it's going to be the two of them helping to further elevate Braun, which we know Breakker is. Breakker is the future of the company, but he's got Gunther and Cody ahead of him. It's like, they're going to do great stuff with Braun. Go back to, say, Scott Steiner, 1996, 1997. You knew they were going to be doing stuff with Scott, but you had Hogan, Sting, Flair, whatever your top echelon was, and you knew once those guys were gone, they were going to elevate Scotty. I feel that way about Breakker. Like he's earning his stripes. He's getting his cred. He's in his Gunther period where he's, and I love that, using the Intercontinental title as that method of ascendancy. Ludwig. Oh gosh. I hope Braun retains, and I hope Ludwig looks damn good in the process.
Yeah, that's pretty much my hope for the match. Is
as long as Braun puts over Ludwig without losing, then you've done something awesome. That's essentially what if I'm the booker, the backstage, the American doing that the road. I tell you, Braun, you're gonna go over, baby. Here's what's gonna happen, but you gotta elevate Ludwig, brother. You gotta take Ludwig. You gotta make him. You gotta make him with the crowd thing. Oh man, this guy's he's gonna beat me. He's gonna beat me. He's gonna beat me. Oh no, he falls up, but the crowd is still like, oh my god, that guy he just got over, baby.
Nice. Yeah. So. That's the IC match. Now on to the. In fact, just before we hit the main event, I would like to bring something up about the women's War Games match.
All right.
It is the stupidest thing. They do this every single year. For some reason, the baby faces have the advantage going in. Now,
agree.
History lesson for you. Cap, pop quiz. How many War Games matches with the baby faces having the advantage were in WCW? Correct.
0.
And the reason for this is it makes no goddamn logical sense that the good guys would have the 2-on-1 advantage going all the way through the match because the heels have lost half of their threat and therefore half of their heat and half of the point of going into the match. It is stupid. It is bad booking. And yet WWE continue to do this with the Women's War Games match every single year. I think this is the third year in a row. I could be wrong there. You'd have to look it up. But I think this is the third year in a row that the baby faces have had the advantage going into the match. And I think it is foolish. I think it is bad booking. And I think they need to do something about it because as we are now talking about the main event, there ain't no way in blue hell that Jey Uso is beating Jacob Fatu on Friday. Not a chance. The day the devil needs a snow shovel, my friends. Jacob Fatu is not losing a singles match at this point in his run. Regardless of what happens with Jey Uso and Jimmy and Sammy and anyone else trying to interfere, Jacob Fatu is going to win this match, and the bad guys are going to have the advantage going into the main event because it makes the most logical damn sense.
The day the devil needs a snow shovel. That was what got me, Nick.
Oh, thank you. It's this. For those of you that have been living under a rock as wrestling fans, the Bloodline story has been going on for close to 4.5 years. It has been all-encompassing. It has been the driving force behind Triple H's rebirth of the WWE. It has been arguably one of the greatest wrestling storylines ever told, and sometimes one of the worst wrestling storylines ever told. However, the Wolfpack NWO Black and White era that we are currently in, with Bloodline and Bloodline 2.0, is, for me, only just starting to really hit legs. And yes. I think the most important thing to think about while going into this is the fact that the Bloodline 2.0 already hold a victory over Roman and the boys from Crown Jewel. Now, Roman Reigns, in my experience, has never lost 2 matches in a row.
Not that I can recall.
And I don't think that's going to start now, honestly. And I would like to just quickly talk about the fact that thank you, they made CM Punk the 5th man. With the genius story arc of I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for Paul. Because CM Punk is the original Paul Heyman guy in WWE. I think this is wonderful. I think it's wonderful that old school Phil has gone, hell yes, I want to be in a War Games match. I've never done one of those. It's going to be enthralling. It's going to be entertaining. If we get, but whose side is he on at some point, then I will be ecstatic.
Of course, you had to quote Tony Schiavone. Actually, no, that was Bobby Heenan who made that quote at Bash the Beach 96.
And ruined the entire premise of the heel turn and spoiled it for us all watching at home. Only the people in the arena.
First pay-per-view I ever bought with my own allowance money, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice. At least you were rich. You got an allowance.
God. So many stories for so many other days. Yes, to your point, how they do that with the women's War Games is insane. There are two ways to look at War Games. There is sort of the early version of War Games where it was Dusty more or less booking, calling the shots. Then there's the post-Dusty era of booking with War Games. Again, it was 4-on-4 back in those days. Now it's 5-on-5, what have you. There's always the coin toss. Heels win. They get the advantage. The in, the out. The 5-minute period amongst the two best workers. Then you get the other guys coming in, so on and so forth. The pre-Dusty version, the baby faces would win War Games because that was kind of like the penultimate event. That was because again, that wasn't the Fall Brawl War Games. That was the Great American Bash War Games because you had 6 months to build to Starrcade.
Yeah.
When you got to War Games being at Fall Brawl, the heels always won to build to Starrcade. We're in a Fall Brawl Starrcade era rather than a Great American Bash Starrcade. To put that in terms, we're in a Survivor Series to WrestleMania rather than a SummerSlam to Royal Rumble. For this to work, and I was talking about this on Twitter last night, Solo's group has to win this because you're going one of two ways here. Either you are, if you're trying to put a complete kibosh on Bloodline 2.0. Hello, Kitty. Unless you're trying to put a complete kibosh on Bloodline 2.0 and just end this thing outright, then you have Roman's team go over. If, however, you are trying to give this thing more legs, then you have to have Solo's group go over. And I'm thinking if Paul is smart, then he is looking at this saying, I can get far more out of this if Solo's group goes over than if Roman's group goes over. Oh, well, whoop-de-doo. We've been here before. Oh, la-di-da. Solo's group, they're diminished. Solo's group goes over, and how they go over gives it legs.
Well, let me pitch you the reverse idea. Because, Cap, you're insane. Roman Reigns and CM Punk are on the same team. They're not losing this match. They already lost in Saudi Arabia. And it's what happens after they win that's important.
What about this finish? Hear me out. Hear me out here. All 5 are in. Or all 10 are in, I should say. All 5 from both teams are in. We saw little bitty trickles and hints of it whenever Paul came out with Punk. Punk and Roman go at it. Punk lays out Roman. Solo and his team get the pinfall, submission, surrender, what have you. Then you have instantly set up Roman and Punk for a hell of a run with Heyman being the middleman, which would be awesome. Yes, and that also gives you any sort of combination of Sammy, Solo, Jacob, Jay, Jimmy, Tonga, Bronson, Seth Rollins could potentially play a part in this. I'm not sure exactly how I would do it. I have multiple thoughts and theories how you could do that, but
easy. Now, the whole point of Punk being in this match from a long-term storyline perspective, in my opinion,
Roman. But before you say it, Roman Punk is the money match out of this whole sort of circle of names. Out of this whole jambalaya, Roman and Punk is the money match.
Before that happens, they're doing Seth Punk because they are going to use this to logically turn Seth heel. Just like they did with Kevin Owens and Cody. All of Triple H's heels turn heel for logical reasons that in their own thought process make perfect sense and you can kind of agree with. This will drive Seth over the edge. He refused to work with Roman after everything Roman's done. He gets sacrificed his body and most of his career to do everything he could, including lose his world title because he'd already had 2 matches the night before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This will drive Seth over the edge that CM Punk, his mortal enemy, in Seth's eyes, has come back and tried to put the person who he removed from power back in power.
Are you thinking
and he will snap?
Are you thinking again, because as our good friend Matty Laws said, Seth Rollins is the most modern day comparison to Randy Savage. Are you thinking like a Macho Man Randy Savage, early 1997 snap into the madness to where Seth becomes the most dangerous man in professional wrestling, to where like whether he wins or loses, all that matters to Seth is did he inflict pain and punishment?
I mean, if you're good at something, you don't do it for free, Seth Rollins.
Similar, but
there
okay.
is. If you're going to do something, there is a reason for you doing it. There is a will behind it. There is a drive.
And
there is a
goal. Pull that off.
Yeah, it's very difficult to pull that off, but Seth is very good. And Seth is more than capable of doing it, and Punk is more than capable of being in the foil for that version of Seth Rollins. So I think the whole purpose of Punk being in this match.
Seth has longer legs than Punk, though. I mean, we have to take age into consideration.
Yes,
here.
but you also have to remember they wanted CM Punk versus Seth Rollins to the world title last year at WrestleMania and were unable to get it because of Punk's tricep tear. So, logical reasons, Triple H likes to go back to where he had unfinished business and get it finished. He's going back to Seth and Punk. But back to the War Games match. Now, I completely disagree because I think the babyfaces are going to win. But I think after the babyfaces are going to win, The Rock is going to appear.
Okay.
And I
disagree thus far, but I want to hear your soliloquy.
And I think we also may get the debuting Hikuleo at some point during this match, because he's been signed to a contract for about 6 months now, and he still hasn't been used. Now, he's a terrible wrestler. Like, awful. He's one of the worst people they ever had in New Japan. The guy sucks. But he's 7 foot tall, and they do like their giants. So if they can do something with Omos, they can do something with Hikuleo. At least Hikuleo can move. So I imagine they will do this. But I believe The Rock will appear, and The Rock will make his allegiance known that he has been pulling the strings behind the Bloodline 2.0 all of this time. And even though Roman has just beaten Solo's crew, it is not over, because the real person he has to beat is the final boss. And the show will go off air with Roman's crew getting beat down by the team that lost, but stand tall in the end.
I get that, but why not just have that be the part of the finish and have them lose? Because you still accomplish the same thing and put more heat on your heels.
Because it shows that no matter how much Roman succeeds, there's always another obstacle in his way.
So you're saying we're forecasting. We're being meteorological wrestling.
And more importantly, CM Punk wins. Roman doesn't.
So we're forecasting WrestleMania. We're talking Roman Rock, Seth Punk, Cody and Cena, which
trust me,
running. Solo and Sammy? Jay and...
No, Sammy and the Usos versus Solo, Jacob, versus Solo and the Geek God.
A 6-man.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with your forecast there. I can legit see that happening, because Cena's on his retirement tour. As much as I hate the goddamn character of John Cena, I love and respect the dude who it's like, dude, I love everything about you except your character. So, but I can see that arc happening. I hope it doesn't, but I can legit see that happening without any real reservations apart from, well, this is bad for business unless your business is, making money rather than, doing good wrestling, which Hunter is always about what makes the money. And Al Snow always said, who's the best booker in the history of wrestling? The one that made the most money. So I'm just, the last time we saw John Cena in an actual match, we were just like, oh, Christ. Like, this is bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But I think Big Match John has got one left in him. And I think Cody's the perfect opponent.
Well, Mike Tyson thought he had one left in him, and then we saw that mishigosh.
Yeah, but that's actual competitive boxing, not professional wrestling, dude.
Cody, if there is anyone on the roster who could carry Cena to a match,
it's Cody.
I would say it's Cody or Seth who could carry Cena to the way Shawn Michaels carried Flair in Flair's what should have been his retirement match.
It was. I don't know what you're talking about. He never wrestled again.
Cody or Seth could carry Cena in that environment. So I will cede that to you. It won't be great, but it could be goddamn good.
It'll be a Rock Hogan moment where the crowd will make it or break it. Oh, right, but that is Survivor Series. Now, that's it for WWE. Before we are fastly running out of time, but I quickly cap, because I don't know if you do pay attention to AEW these days, but AEW have currently started the Continental Classic.
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have. Now, this was a highlight of AEW TV last year. The matches in the Classic are always tremendous. I love a round-robin tournament, don't we all? We're wrestling fans. It's looks like it's set out to be a good bracket. I think Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher is the final to go for, but I think it's more than likely going to be Will Ospreay versus Kazuchika Okada in the final. Who do you think is going to win the tournament, Cap, and what matches are you looking forward to?
As a wrestling fan, I look forward to anything Will Ospreay does. And for those of you that know me, I'm not a high spot flippy type guy, but I've always said Will Ospreay is better than that. Will Ospreay, essentially there are three at this point, with Bryan Danielson essentially being semi-retired, halfway, whatever.
Retired essentially competition.
Yeah. There are essentially three people in AEW who I give a full Tinker's Dam about, and one I give a half a Tinker's Dam about. The three I give a full Tinker's Dam about: MJF, Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland. The one I give a half a Tinker's Dam about is Darby Allin. Beyond that, I could go on a 2-hour rant about how Nick Khan sucks at the booking thing, but I won't do that. We don't have that time. But as far as the Continental Classic goes, I think it has to be Ospreay winning it if you're doing a legitimate tournament type of thing. Will Ospreay is just phenomenal. And anytime I get to see him work against anybody, I love Will Ospreay so much. And normally I wouldn't, but I love the dude so much I can't help myself.
I'm lucky enough that I've been watching Will Ospreay live wrestling since he was 19 years old. I have seen him go from the flippiest of boys into a man that can truly tell stories in the ring.
Yes.
And because of his experience in Japan, he makes it look legit, to the point that video leaked out and went viral online of an after-match angle he did a couple of years ago in Rev Pro at a show that I was at, where he beat the snot out of a kid after the show. And this thing has made the rounds, and Will is so good and makes it look so real. that everyone's calling for him to be arrested and sent to prison because he assaulted this boy and he went off script and everything else. And it's absolutely absurd because he just hits the hidden blade from behind and then does a series of elbows to the head. And if you slow it down and watch it, you can see his forearm is hitting the guy's shoulder blade and his elbow is hitting the mat next to his head. But he does it so fast and it's so well positioned that the entire world seemed to think it's real. Because that's how good Will Ospreay is at his job. So I completely agree. I think this whole tournament is built for Will. I think it's going to be him and Okada in the final. I think it's going to be an absolute banger of a match.
And Okada can, as much as Tony has tried to make him a comedy act, Okada can still go when necessary. I wasn't including the ladies. Tony Storm.
Yeah.
Love you, Tony. And, Dr. Britt Baker, I'm always going to be interested in what she's up to. And there's a few others, but, the men. Okada and Ospreay would be phenomenal.
Yes.
There is one other gentleman who I'm hoping AEW gets their hands on.
Yeah. Who's that?
Young man out of New Jersey. He's currently on an ACL injury. And right now his name is escaping me. Maddie turned me on to this guy. He tore his ACL about 6 months ago. Good God, what is this kid's name?
Who's he wrestle for?
GCW.
Oh, Oliver. Oh, I know exactly.
Oliver.
Jordan Oliver.
Jordan Oliver. Yes. I was mentioning, people in the, sort of the indies, lower promotions I have my eye on. I said, okay, Ospreay, MJF, Swerve. Jordan Oliver is that one who's not signed to a big company yet. Yeah. That I just absolutely am. And again, not normally my type of guy, but every single, and I've probably watched 15 or so of his matches.
Yeah.
I can't take my eyes off him. Like he does the little things. It's the little things, and he does them, and I love it.
Brilliant. Right, yeah. Okay. I'm afraid we are fastly out of time. So, if you wish to plug anything, now is your time.
Raw Ball Podcast. Sunday, as always, live for NFL Red Zone. We will be live for 7.5 hours every single Sunday during the football season. And then starting the spring, hopefully, once networks and Netflixes and Peacocks and what have yous get their acts together, Nick and I will be doing, Our Time in Wrestling, which it's a show I've been wanting to do for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years now. Finally started, Nick and I were putting together, the baseline for it, and then football season happened, and now we have this. So at this point, I'm like, to hell with it. I don't care how long it takes. I'm doing this with Nick. I don't have my old partner, John Rice, on it. I have Nick. I'm going to do a biography show. If I have any lasting podcast, streaming, whatever on my legacy, I want to do this biography show with someone like Nick. Like, this is what I've wanted to do ever since I started this business in 2019. I want to do this, goddammit.
Yeah, so do I. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a nostalgic trip down memory lane for me, and I think that's the point of the program. Wrestling's done a lot for my life, and I want to look back over it and really reinterpret what it was and what they were trying to do. I
can't wait for your show with Jimmy. I'm going to be tuning into that every damn episode.
Tomorrow night, 5 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Central time. It will be the Friday Night Review, episode 1 on a Saturday, because real life got in the way. It will be absolutely loads of fun. And Nitro was only an hour when it first started, so it absolutely flies by. Watching the old episodes of the company that I considered my company when I was growing up as a wrestling fan is going to be an absolute joy. I love Nitro. I love WCW. I love everything about it. And
whenever you get to the episode where you're recording Sting and Hogan the Monday before World War III, 1995, let me know. I would love to come on because
happily
I was sitting there with my remote recording that. I still have the VHS in the closet of that match.
Happily.
Please let me come on for that.
I certainly will. But we must say our goodbyes. I've been Nick the Geek. That's been the Captain. And always remember, we are but two geeks obsessed with a good show. And our opinion means nothing without yours in the comments below. See you next week.